The next thing in pacing that I think is important to learn about is how to find your tolerance for activity. So that's a recap of the definition there. So it's how long you can do the thing until you get a noticeable increase in pain. And the way that we define noticeable in chronic pain is a 1 or 2 point increase on that 10-point scale. And just a general rule of thumb is if your pain is typically 5 or less out of 10, then you can continue doing the activity until you get a 2-point increase in pain. But if your pain is typically 6 or higher out of 10, we recommend that just a 1-point increase in pain is a sign that really you should stop that activity then. And the reason for that is so that you don't suffer a delayed increase in pain. Because you're not just doing that activity in the day, you're doing other things as well. And you're less likely to flare your pain if you stop with that 1 or 2 point guideline. So, how to find your tolerance? First thing you do, scan your body, evaluate what your pain level is. Give yourself a number. Pay attention to what the time is, and start doing whatever it is. Say it's walking. So I start walking, and I now and then check in with how I'm feeling. When I experience that 1 or 2 point increase in pain, I stop walking. I check the time, pay attention to what the duration was, and I write that down. People commonly ask, well, what about delayed pain? Because I can do something and I'm not aware that my pain is increasing, or it may not be increasing. I don't experience the increase until later in the day or the following day even. So what we suggest is that when you're trying to figure out your tolerance for an activity and you experience delayed pain, is to stop that activity when you normally do. So same thing, you scan your body, you give yourself a pain number, you start the activity and you do it for the duration that you normally would. But the second rating of your pain isn't until that evening or the next day. And then you use that same guideline. If you get the 1 or 2 point increase, then you know that's your tolerance. If you get more than that, then you need to repeat the activity again for a shorter amount of time and see if that has an effect on your delayed pain. So you sort of work backwards to figure out your tolerance. Just doing the activity once isn't sufficient. You need to do it on at least 3 different days of the week because there's different variables that come into play on different days. So what we suggest is, for example, if it's walking, that you do that process of establishing your tolerance on 3 different days. Say I was able to walk for 20 minutes on the first day and 19 minutes on the second day and 21 minutes on the third day. Then I add those up and divide by 3, and my average is 20 minutes that I'm able to tolerate walking. So what about increasing tolerances? Because that is one of the ways that pacing can be used. Well, you can't increase just from your tolerance because you know that's the point at which you get that pain increase. So you can't possibly expect yourself to do more than that without increasing your pain. And we don't want you pushing into your pain because it's going to sensitize your brain to telling you that you've got more pain. So you need to establish what's called your baseline. And simply put, your baseline is your tolerance level divided by 2. So walking for 20 minutes divided by 2 equals 10 minutes. So for me to get past the 20-minute mark, I have to start at 10 minutes. So what you do is you do the activity for at least 3 sessions at your baseline level before moving up a very small amount. And the amount that you move up is going to be unique to the individual and depending on the activity. But an example here would be starting walking at 10 minutes 3 times per week. The next week, just increase it to 11 minutes. Then by the time you reach your 20-minute tolerance, do you think you're going to get that 1 to 2 point increase in pain? No. You're going to be okay. You can go on to 22 minutes and probably on to 24 minutes. You're going to plateau at a different level at some point, but it'll be more than the 20 minutes. So this graph has all those approaches to activity on it. So the white line represents the pacing as I've just described it. So even though your tolerance is at that black dotted line level, you start below that and increase in a stepwise fashion until you experience that 1 to 2 point increase in pain significantly, and that's guaranteed to be at a higher level than what your original tolerance is at. And that's because the messages coming in from your body and from other parts of your brain to your brain are not going to be as alarming to your brain, because you have demonstrated to your brain that you're able to do those things and that you're not in danger, so your brain's less likely to increase the pain. It doesn't see that you're in danger, because you're not. The next step is to set a schedule. So, in pacing, it's the planning ahead. So you need to be smart about it. You've figured out what your tolerances are for activities. And when I talk about planned level, it's an activity that you want to increase your tolerance to. It might be lower than what your tolerance level is that you're working at. Because, just an aside here, is that you're not going to want to increase your tolerance to every single activity that you do. You know, you get up and get yourself washed and dressed every day, and that's working out okay. So you don't need to increase your tolerance to that. So you just schedule that in for the known amount of time that you're able to manage it for. So that's your tolerance level. Whereas other things you're wanting to increase your tolerance to, like the walking example, so you schedule yourself in at the planned level. The key here is to stop the activity when you're doing it before you get that 1 to 2 point increase in pain, that noticeable increase in pain. So if you're able to wash the dishes for 7 minutes, you don't plan on doing the dishes for 7 minutes, you plan on doing them for 6 minutes. Set a timer, and the timer reminds you 6 minutes is up. Okay, I have to go use my body in a different way now. I can come back and finish the dishes, do it for another 6 minutes, because I know that I'm not going to be pushing into my pain by stopping before my tolerance level. You can use a calendar or a planner or just a piece of paper to plan ahead, and you can plan ahead for as much time as you're comfortable with. Some people like to do it a day at a time. Others are able to manage a week or even a month. Regardless, what's important to be aware of is that no one day should be more demanding than the next. If you want to get a control over those peaks, those flare-ups in your pain, then you need to be putting out a similar amount of energy from day to day. You're going to be getting then more consistent messages going to your brain. Your brain's going to be less alarmed, less likely to interpret danger, and less likely to result in you feeling more pain.